Alright, check it out. Today I'm going to be doing a little commentary over this speed art. I'm writing the word VERO. I'm sure many of you guys have heard of the new app named VERO. This is kind of a new social media platform that's got Instagram and Facebook all slightly jumbled, but we'll see if it's going to actually hold water. Basically, good opportunity to try out some different orientations on letters, and I actually forced myself to even throw in a lowercase e on here. So we're going to be really stretching the structure on all of these guys. So I was doing a few sketches beforehand, trying to get my layout down. Then I transferred it over to the BlackBook and changed a few things up, but mostly kept to that original sketch. I'd have to say on paper this name doesn't have a lot of pop, it just has standard letter orientation, but I had fun kind of moving things around and really kind of making that R slightly more powerful, also trying to keep the O a little bit harder, so that's a little more abstracted in the piece, but in general worked in pretty nicely with that lowercase e and the V. I added a bunch of arrows and whatnot on there just to spice that up, as it is a little generic the way the main structure is set up. I've seen the majority of discussion about VERO over on Instagram. It seems like a lot of people are posting their pages from the VERO app over on Instagram to try and move some of their traffic over there. And I wish I was lying with not a single one didn't mention that, oh well, this app might not be around for a while, but still head over there. Kind of seems like a very passive and safe approach to saying that you're trying something new out. Instagram had come along and was kind of the new bread and the first one to really do it well for sharing stuff mobilely. But now that all these things are established on your phones, having a new market come in like VERO is going to be even harder for them to really stand out. So I'm definitely guilty of holding my space over there and starting my feet up. It's always tough to say if, you know, these things will last or if I'll continue to pursue them, but it really just comes down to if you want to kind of branch out into a new market and put yourself into there. I'm sure the same things happened when Snapchat and all the rest came around. So it will be interesting to follow the trajectory of this. Going back on to kind of where Instagram had fallen into the new market, it was seemingly the first app that had really done it correctly. Instagram had kind of taken over the Flickr space that was back before a lot of the mobile phone stuff and a lot of the images were shared over there. I know when I had started, Flickr and YouTube were the two big social medias that I pushed my stuff out on, and even after using the Flickr mobile app for a while, Instagram quickly surpassed that. It was just seemingly easier to interact with people, you know, create a following and share your stuff around, and not to mention it had a pretty good layout and pretty good structure for, you know, supporting the photos and then seemingly videos a few years later. But now that apps like VERO are trying to come in and disrupt, you know, how you're using your phone for sharing in social media and whatnot, it seems like they've thrown in a ton more features to try and, you know, grab people from each and every area and then kind of curate them all together. Instagram's obviously great for sharing art in this case, but a lot of people, you know, share their personal lives and also, you know, their music that they're working on or music of other artists. I think VERO's trying to take a little bit step further and have these kind of be curated and community-based pages where people are going to be sharing their likes of whether it's music, movies, and all that together, rather than just having, you know, my personal art page where you see only my art. There's no great other way to seamlessly introduce, you know, maybe music that I'm listening to or movies that I just saw. So I can see they're trying to take a grab at kind of that vlogger and that personality style and try to harness that. So you're seeing someone from a category base of their 10 general social identities, whether it's the music, the movies, and, you know, the community they surround themselves with. But now it's providing a platform to kind of put that all together and allow you to also kind of curate your feed based on the personalities that you follow. I think that's a huge bite to take for social media, but I do also see that as kind of the forefront of what the next kind of social media might be. I'm sure everyone's guilty of watching their fair feed of Snapchat stories, and Snapchat is almost all personality based, and at no fault is that some of the most entertaining content that someone can quickly produce on the internet. So kind of curating that and allowing more people to create and also put their stuff online, this is going to be an interesting way to see how people react to having kind of a fully and wholesome social media to work through. One of the big points that they're also pushing is that they're not going to have any ads on the site. Now that being said, that hasn't worked great for apps in the past. Things like Vine that have totally shut down and Twitter that are still struggling to make their ends meet, that don't have a lot of ads on there. It's hard to keep the infrastructure of the company running when there isn't a major source of revenue. So that being said, they must have some pretty deep pockets backing this origination, but they've also alluded to having some in-app purchases and kind of premium content that they'll also be selling through the service. And even before that, there's actually going to be an annual fee to using the service. So kind of like Netflix or YouTube Red, you're going to actually have to pay to be able to use and access anything on this app. And the catch of that is that you're going to have that totally ad-free environment, but that's going to put a little bit more work on your shoulders to make the atmosphere what you want. Seeking out and actually finding the better entertainment or new entertainment is going to maybe require some more work, or more hopefully by their design, people will be sharing and interacting, and people you follow will be sending you things that you also find interesting, and then you can follow that trail yourself. Instagram and all the other social medias do this by mining your data and trying to follow, you know, what trends you follow versus some other users, and then publishing the best thing that they think you'll like in front of your face. So definitely two different approaches here. You got the natural stance where they want, the interactions and stuff to drive the rest of the entertainment, versus, the computer's churning out something that they think you're going to watch longer and hopefully return more ad money back to them. I'm definitely not an expert to say which one's going to work better and if the natural kind of curation of you and your followers is going to have a beneficial effect with how long you stay on the app. But at the end of the day, it could just be a cool experiment for them to figure out, how people actually do interact when it's a little bit more stripped down of an interface. So they're letting the first few million users go in and have a lifetime guarantee of free service. We'll see if that actually holds up, as it's pretty easy for a company to find a loop around to work out the details for them to save some money and actually make stuff more. But I've also seen quite a few notes that they're going to be trying to sell those in-app purchases and get you to purchase, whether it's a t-shirt or something, directly from another listing on the site. So I could definitely see them doing more of partnership style advertising. Now, it's not direct advertising by any means, so you're not going to be spammed with like things that you need to click out of your way, but it could seamlessly be integrated in that they're taking their cut for sharing Pepsi's new product with you through some other creator's means. I didn't find anything clear as to whether or not they're going to let people do paid promotions within their content, as that's something we saw quite a bit on Vine, where the creators were taking sponsorship to produce content and seamlessly trying to integrate an ad directly onto your feed. Now, unless somewhere in their community guidelines actually posting paid content breaks that agreement, then you're going to see probably a lot of people not want to use this website, as they're not going to be able to find, from the creator stance, a point to bring in some revenue. So my guess is they're going to have to live with that and leave it to the creators to adequately moderate and not totally spam people on different advertising and whatnot. But at the same rate, now they're going to have to try and police the fake accounts and all those things quite a bit more drastically. So bringing it down from the high level and the total kind of hierarchy of how they expect the app to function, I went through and used and kind of searched around to try and find some users, and it's definitely a little bare. It only took me a minute of scrolling to get to the last hashtag of Graffiti. So there's only been a couple days of people actually posting and using the app. Few people, the largest following count I found was just over 400 people, so definitely still small, and definitely will take some time to grow that up. But at the same rate, if you follow your 15 high school friends and 10 other people you find on Instagram that are moving over, I think you can quickly move on to that bigger thing and actually get a feed that's interesting and whatnot. Now, for myself, I didn't find the new features to be something that Instagram and whatnot was lacking. Now, that's a very personal case, because I know I'm not one to go look around music and share it with other people. It's kind of one of those things that I'll just happen upon, or other people will share them with me, and I'll kind of keep those in but never really push them out. I can't really see myself jumping into sharing music even if I had the opportunity. The times that it comes around that a really great song I think, or I find ahead of time, it's maybe a day before everybody else finds it as well. So it's one of those that I don't find those extra features being a huge draw for myself. So I can say the layout and the functionality on that front definitely made me maybe a little bit more involved than that aimless swipe that you find yourself going through that same old loop down Instagram to find some new posts. But in general, the first layout of an app is never really the one to stick, so we'll see how that goes. They also really are pushing the fact that they're leaving everything in chronological order. If you want to go find something old, you're going to have to go dig it up, and people aren't going to be liking your post from 5 days ago, which initially was a fault to Instagram. And I know I just keep going back to Instagram as the comparison here, is that's what I'm primarily using outside of YouTube. But having that almost waterfall of a timeline from Instagram allows you to rediscover stuff that you might have missed the first time around. And now, as that kind of catch-22 there is, now you're going to want people to be more interacting on the app, so maybe they use it more often in fear that they miss something. But I could see in our generation is going to be using the app as much as you want, regardless of whether or not you're catching new things. But if they're able to actually provide you with information, or provide you with that entertainment that you might have missed, but they actually know you probably would have liked to see it, that's going to add a little bit more value to your interaction with the app. So I definitely enjoy that feature of Instagram. It allows your post to come up 3 or 4 or 5 days later and still get interaction with some of your followers if they were to miss it. I think that might be a fault here, especially because they don't have any data tracking for you to actually catch that information that you might want to see something. It's going to really be relying on someone else sharing it even a day later. So I'm not too optimistic that that would actually hold water. I feel like it's going to be a feed of just the most recent things all the time, which from my personal case of using social medias and my interactions with a lot of other people, you're retrieving and you're using way more than you're actually producing. So it will be interesting to see if there isn't more content being produced, how things are still circulated, and if everybody's just watching and never sharing, what does that mean? And also, are they able to kind of curate and make the sharing atmosphere more enticing and make it easier to share? They do have options where you can share it, privately to just yourself. You can share it then to your, I think, close acquaintances they call it, then followers, and then full public, so anybody can search and find it. So they do have the tiered options there, which I think makes it at least pretty interesting for you to go and say, well, I'm going to keep this as somewhat of a private style Facebook video, or I'm going to keep it as somewhat of a private Facebook account. Whereas, you know, Instagram is mostly public. A lot of people do keep their stuff private there, but now this kind of gives you that weird happy medium that you can keep some things totally public and then you can keep some things totally private. For my art, it's definitely going to all be public, but I can see this being a nice kind of happy medium, especially for, you know, new users that don't necessarily want to put everything all out there. They can kind of test the waters maybe with their close followers and then do it full publicly once they maybe approve people to follow them or approve people to be contacts. I think coming in against the established social medias is a super uphill battle, and I don't know that this is providing any cutting edge new material. Whereas Instagram came in and it was really a new and a flawless form of sharing photos online that was off of the traditional Facebook and then off of traditional Flickr. And now that was able to break water and kind of establish itself as the photo sharing site. I'm not sure this is adding anything more than, you know, a review based site, so I honestly don't see it sticking around too long. I don't see this app further supporting my style of content at this time. I would pretty much use it the same as I use Instagram and post videos there or post photos there, and the same as YouTube and post and interact there. So for myself, the means of, you know, maybe reaching a larger audience also isn't quite there because there's not a lot of people using it. So we'll see if other people break down the wall and make this thing popular. I might post every third of my Instagram photos also over there to see what kind of traction it brings up and if there's other opportunities after using the app for a little while. But needless to say, this is definitely going to have to be a huge user base to start even making a dent in the fact that Instagram and Facebook and all these have such a grasp on the social media atmosphere. Now, I'm definitely not going to finish this video out without going over the piece and telling you some of my favorite parts and some of the parts that I think could use work. So the general letter structure I kept relatively simple. Like I mentioned before, I added those arrows on the V to kind of beef it up a little bit and cover a little bit more area on the page. Kind of went for the same style on the rest of the letters. Simple structure for the letter itself, and then threw some nice arrows and little hookups on there to grow the piece and fill in some of that negative space. It's a toss-up between the V and the R on this. I think I'm going to have to go with the R as my favorite letter here. I liked how I brought its lower leg out and was able to sit the O on top of that. And seemingly enough, it doesn't quite overpower the piece despite being quite a bit larger than the other letters. Thought that was a nice use of that really diagonal shape to the R, and then dropping 3 arrows off of the O definitely beefs that up a bit, and having 2 off the little E definitely helps that as well. Now, as far as the coloring goes, I really wish the colors were a little bit more vibrant. I've been meaning to pick up a better medium blue. I'm not the biggest fan of this kind of mid-purpley color. It's all I had that was a mid-tone between the dark turquoise, which was inspired off of the VERO color scheme, and I knew I wanted to work that into a lighter color as I didn't want a totally dark backdrop. But all in all, you know, the light blue at the bottom worked fine as itself. The teal worked great for itself with a little orange outline, and that middle blue color could definitely use some less purple in there and be, you know, maybe a mid-tone of a light blue. I also think the teal could be a little bit darker, give it a little bit more pop off that orange. Altogether, this piece kind of feels muted to me. I really like the construction of everything. The teal going in was great, and then the orange on top looked great. But as I kind of work through the rest, it kind of just has a general gray tone, even after the double black outline at the end. So if I were to make this pop more, you know, I'd have to hit it with some darker contrast. Definitely a solid attempt at getting the 2-color outline as well as something a little bit more intense in the backdrop. I was originally trying to go for somewhat of a smoky look, but that kind of got thrown out of the window. It wasn't really looking as I liked. I went for more of kind of like a fleshy, just weird orange, kind of lava almost backdrop. I've definitely been envious of some other people's shading abilities on the page, so I'm definitely trying to work that out myself, as these are just really generic shading at the end of the day. You know, there's not much actual character to the different fades here, so I could definitely use some work on that, but it's definitely a fun attempt to try and give something a little bit different than a flat white background. If you guys have any comments about the structure or the color composition of the piece, I'd love to hear in the description down below, as well as if you guys downloaded the VERO app, feel free to leave your names down there. I'll follow anybody on there, as I've only got maybe 10 people I'm following at this point, and maybe that'll also help inspire me to use the app a little bit more. I was actually able to come up with the Sive account over there, seemingly as I got in ahead of anybody that was trying to snatch it for me. So that's definitely good news, as I've missed it on quite a few other social medias. So definitely go follow me over there. I'll post a direct link in the description of the video if you're watching this on your phone, or you can just type in Sive. I'm sure you'll come across it. And feel free to leave your comments about what you do and don't like about social media nowadays. I can see VERO continue to focus on that older demographic and kind of share those more mature personality things like a movie review or the music that you're listening to. Let me know if you think the same, or if you think this is the most flawless app and this is going to take over everything that we're using tomorrow. I love to hear everybody's feedback, so don't hesitate to hit the comment section down below. Much like sharing your stuff on VERO, spraying that like button also shares stuff around here on YouTube. It goes a really far way to not only show YouTube what videos you like and give you some more good suggestions hopefully, but also goes and shows and shares it with people that also watch similar things to you. I post weekly art related videos. Last week I did an unboxing of some new stuff from Bombing Science, some real sweet mops and markers in there, so maybe you want to go check that out. I'll also post on a random video on the screen as well. And also consider joining the crew by subscribing so you don't miss the videos in the future. That's going to do it for me, guys. Peace.